This Boeing 747 didn't crash because of weather. It didn't crash because of pilot's error. It crashed because of two metal pins. And the question of what was in the cargo hold has never been fully answered. In the next 9 minutes, you will get the engineering story first. Exactly how two fatigue-cracked fuse pins brought down a 4-engine Boeing 747 over a residential neighborhood in Amsterdam, killing 43 people. And then, because you cannot tell this story without it, you will hear the controversy that followed. The cargo manifest that wasn't fully released. The depleted uranium counterweights that turned a crash investigation into something far more complicated. But the engineering comes first because that is what actually killed the people on the ground. The flight was El Al Israel Airlines 1862, a freighter. No fare-paying passengers, operating from New York Kennedy Airport to Tel Aviv via a fuel and crew changeoff at Amsterdam Schiphol. The date, 4th of October 1992. The aircraft was a Boeing 747-200 freighter, registration 4X Alpha X-Ray Golf. It was a little over 12 years old, with around 45,000 flight hours. The crew on the leg out of Amsterdam was 3 Israelis. Captain Yitzhak Fuchs, 59, more than 25,000 flight hours. First Officer Arnon Ohad, 32, 4,000 hours flight engineering. Gedalya Sofer, 61. More than 24,000 hours. With them was one non-revenue passenger, a 43 years old Israeli woman named Anat Solomon, riding in the jump seat. So 4 people on the aircraft itself. The cargo hold contained 114 tons of freight, including industrial chemicals, electronics, and components for a research institute outside Tel Aviv. At 18:22 local time, on a calm autumn evening, El Al 1862 lifted off from Schiphol Airport on a runway 01 Lima. The takeoff was completely routine. The aircraft climbed through 6,000 feet on heading on profile. Then, 6 minutes after takeoff, something at the back of the right wing broke. The 747's engine hung underneath the wing on pylons. Each pylon is held to the wing by a small number of structural connections, including a set of fuse pins. A fuse pin is exactly what it sounds like. It's a deliberately weakened piece of structure designed to fail before something more important does. If an engine ever caught fire or seized in flight, the fuse pins were meant to let the engine break cleanly away from the wing, saving the rest of the airplane. On El Al 1862, the fuse pin holding engine number 3, the right inner engine, had developed metal fatigue cracks. It had been cracking microscopically for years. At 18:28 local time, with no warning, the pin failed. Engine number 3 separated from the wing. As it fell, it struck engine number 4, the right outer engine, and tore that engine off the wing as well. Now both right wing engines were gone. The crew had about 10 minutes from the moment the engine departed the airframe to the moment of impact. The aircraft was in theory still flyable. 2 engines were still running on the left side. the crew declared an emergency and turned back to Schiphol. Captain said, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. LL-1862, lost engines 3 and 4, returning to Schiphol." Air traffic control was outstanding, vectoring the aircraft for an approach to runway 27. The crew was outstanding. They configured the aircraft for an emergency landing. They communicated clearly. They were doing everything right. But what no one on the aircraft knew, because they couldn't see it from the cockpit, was that when the engine tore off, they had also taken a section of the wing's leading edge with them. The damage had broken the right wing's outboard hydraulic system and critically jammed the right-hand outboard slats and flaps in their retracted position. When the crew began to slow the aircraft for landing, the asymmetric configuration meant the right wing was producing less lift than the left. As they slowed further, the asymmetry got worse. About 1 minute from the runway, at roughly 2,000 feet, the aircraft entered an uncontrollable right wing down roll. At 18:35 and 25 seconds local time, the Boeing 747 struck southwestern corner of the Groenewijn and Klein Kreutberg apartment complex in Bijlmermeer neighborhood of southeast Amsterdam. The impact destroyed entire section of 2 10-story residential buildings. The aircraft and its cargo of fuel ignited fire that burned for hours. 43 people were confirmed dead. 4 were on the aircraft, 39 were in the apartments. The fire was so intense that recovery operation took weeks. Identification of remains was complicated by the fact that Bijlmermeer was a densely populated neighborhood with many undocumented residents, and by the cargo, which would soon become its own controversy. The Dutch government opened a parliamentary inquiry. Investigators from the Netherlands Aviation Safety Board began work within hours, joined by teams from Boeing, El Al, and the Israeli Civil Aviation Authority. The final report, published in 1994, identified the engineering cause clearly. The fuse pin holding engine number 3 had failed due to metal fatigue. The cracking had been progressive, meaning it had been developing for some time and was theoretically detectable during inspection. The Boeing 747's existing fuse pin inspection regime had not caught it. That is the engineering story. The cargo story is more complicated. The aircraft's manifest, when finally compiled, including 114 tons of cargo, much of it described in general terms. Among the cargo, depleted uranium counterweights used in the 747's structure as part of its original design. There were also chemicals on the plane as well. A chemical that's called methylphosphonate, a precursor that can be used in the production of nerve agents, but which also has legitimate industrial uses. For years afterwards, residents of Bijlmermeer reported unexplained health problems. A parliamentary inquiry that concluded in 1999 examined whether the cargo had contributed to those illnesses. The inquiry's findings were in the end inconclusive. After El Al 1862, Boeing accelerated a redesign of the 747's pylon-to-wing fuse pin assembly. Inspection intervals were drastically shortened across the global 747 fleet. The Federal Aviation Administration issued an airworthiness directive that affected every 747 in service. The accident also influenced cargo manifest disclosure rules in Europe, particularly for the flights carrying chemicals through residential aerospace. The engineering failure killed 43 people. The unanswered questions about the cargo continue to affect a community for decades. Both the stories are true. They just didn't fit on the same page. Thanks for watching After the Black Box. Subscribe if you want more and let me know in the comments which incident you want next. Air India 182 or Korean Air 007. See you then.